Hello friends, come back with me on my channel, which discussing about the linguistic. And come back with me again for the Marcus. So how are you all? I hope you are happy and you are fine. So on the last topic or discussion, we have discussed how language come into being and what theories are used to predict how language come into being. And before we go to the next topic, let's go back a little bit about what linguistics is. Linguistics is the scientific study of language, and the person who studies it is called a linguist. I think that's all or that's enough to refreshing our last discussion. So this time we will learn about what are the branches of linguistics. There are 5 branches in linguistics that consist of phonology, morphology, syntax, semantic, and lexicon. And for first, we will discuss about the phonology. So, what is the phonology? Phonology is study of vocabulary of language sound, phonemes, and their distribution. Phonology is defined as the study of language which studies the sound and language produced by the human speech apparatus. And phonology consists of 2 parts, namely phonetics and phonemics. Phonetics is a study that studies all things about the speech process. From this branch of linguistics, you can learn about how to produce certain sounds, both in terms of quantity and quality. And if we study phonetics, we will know how to produce the sound, how to pronounce the sound, how sounds transfer, and how sounds are heard. And in phonemics, there are articulator phonetics, is lower mouth organ like tongue and tip of tongue, and nasal sound produced is the air that comes out through the nose, and the nasal sounds is like voices like m on sounds like me, m, me, or n in the no, and no, or in the word like sing, and sing. And then acoustic phonemics, the study of how speech sound are transmitted. And then the acoustic phonetics is the study of the acoustic characteristic of speech, including an analysis and description of speech and terms of its physical properties such as frequency, intensity, and duration. And then affricate is a combination of sound and hiss, and we can hear like puff, tuff, tuff. In this affricate sound, the first sound is tuff, tuff. It's sang by T, and the sound is produced with the tip of tongue placed in the alveolarids, and the air is obscured and released without making a vocal fold vibrate. And then immediately the second sound is produced. Before we going to see how the sound was produced, let us see the picture. And here's I have a picture that can explain the place of articulation. And the first is lips, and the adjective is labial. And the second place is teeth, and the adjective is dental. And the third is alveolar ridge. An adjective is alveolar. And the third is thick. Or we can say in adjective is palatal. Okay, go ahead and fill. We can say it feller on adjective. And an uvular, an adjective, we can call it uvular. And larynx and others. Point or place of article over the mouth organ when the air stops, and alveolar ridge, the top of the sky near the teeth. And next, articulator of anterior tip of the tongue touches her alveolar ridge and the air flows stop completely. When air flows and releases it and the explosion occurs, the so-called stop sound. So MOA, manner of articulation, is a way how sound is produced. And next is wasal. Wasal through the nasal cavity and the natural produce the sound of air being blocked on the cheek, and then fricative, the sound produced by hiss, and vowel, a consonant that is produced resemble a vowel or vocal, and then stop. There is stop completely. And voice sound is sounds that not produce vibration in the vocal cords. And then voice sound is sound that produce vibration in the vocal cords. And then voiceless sound is sound that not produce vibration in the vocal cords. And then P, voiceless, P-labial, stop consonant. And T is a voiceless, alveolar, stop and consonant. So what about the F, S, or G, and others? Guess it and comment in the commenter column. Here is an explanation of what phonology is and its parts, namely phonemics and phonetics. And we will move to the second one. The second one is the morphology. So morphology is a branch of linguistics which examines the internal structure of words and progress of word formation. A morpheme is a unit in language that carries meaning. There are two types of morpheme, namely free morpheme and bound morpheme. Free morpheme is a morpheme that can stand alone in a sentence structure. A word like book or dog is called a free morpheme because it can occur in isolation and cannot be divided into smaller meaning units. On the contrary, bound morpheme. Bound morpheme is a morpheme that cannot stand alone and is always bound to another morpheme. A word like cats, as on there is a polymorphism or called. A and D on there, we can call it polymorphism. Morphology structure and syllable structure must be kept strictly apart. Syllable is a unit pronunciation having one vowel sound, with or without surrounding consonant, forming the whole or a part of a word. For an example, first is Paul. Paul is consist by one morpheme and one syllables. And the second is comics. Comics is consist by two morpheme and two syllables. Are you guys understand about the morpheme and the syllables? If you don't understand, you can ask it in a comment column. And I want to give you more example about the syllables and morpheme. Okay, we will looking a word is consist by one syllables and two morpheme. One syllables and two morpheme. It's like cats. Cats has two syllables. I'm so sorry. One syllables and two morpheme. And morpheme is cat as an animal and cats as a plural, or that meaning the cats is more than one. And maybe it's like dolphin. Dolphin has two syllables and one morpheme. Dolphin, you cannot break the dolphins to be two morpheme, cause the dolphin has a one meaning, but the dolphin has two syllables, dol and pin. Okay, how about the sharks? No, how about the octopus? Octopus, is it have three syllables or more? I'll give you 5 seconds to think about it. Okay, the octopus have 3 syllables, octo and pus, but it has just 2 morpheme. Octopus as an animal, and it uses as a plural, or is more than one, like that. And next, we will discuss about the syntax. So, syntax is a branch of linguistics that studies about grammar and morphology. And syntax is study how the sentence form, the internal structure of the sentence. And the next is semantic. Semantic is a branch of linguistics that studies of meaning contained in language, codes, or other types of representation. In other words, semantic is study of meaning. Semantic is study of the way in which word or sentence convey meaning in everyday situation of speech and writing. And the example of semantic is how the difference between the girls, lady, and miss. What do you think about the difference between ladies, I'm so sorry, lady, miss, and girl. Type it on the comment column. I think that's all for our study on this session. And for my last word is, I hope you guys understand what I was explaining. And if I have many mistake, I'm so sorry. And I will say goodbye. Thank you. Yeah, today we will learn about the linguistic and the branches of linguistic. And if you have any question or any comment, you can type it in the comment column. And don't forget to